meeting. I understand there's somebody who wants to speak in a public session.
Thank you. Right. This is a statement I just wish to make because I have the right at a public session. In the light of the letter sent to all councillors from the Buckingham Church's Holiday Club that they have declined to accept the grant which was democratically arrived at by the full council to make the grant. It was declined all because one of the councillors who does not believe in democracy instead chose to question the decisions of the council on his social media Facebook page. The Buckingham Church Holiday Club did the Christian thing and not wanting to be a source of contention between the sectors in the town, declined the offer of the grant. It is a sad day for democracy in our town and a sad day for Buckingham Town Council that democratically arrived decisions are being constantly questioned if they go against his viewpoint. It has alienated a large section of the voters of all nationalities, and hopefully this will be reflected at the elections next year. This is, of course, not the first time that a democratically arrived decision has been questioned on the council's Facebook page. There also seems to be a personal vendetta against the town mayor on the said Facebook page, which I find unacceptable. We arrived at giving the grant democratically, and it's a legal binding decision, and therefore the grant should still be made. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
So can I just clarify a point which we've held to recently, which has been helpful, that we don't debate issues raised in the public session, statements,
yeah,
which the council can respond to in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Paul. Okay, so do we have any apologies for absence?
Just from Councillor Mills.
Thank you very much. Any declarations of interest, anyone? No? No, lovely. Minutes of planning meetings, 14th of September and 5th of October. Are we happy to agree those?
Yes.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Don't all speak at once. Item 4, Buckingham Neighbourhood Plan, Vale of Aylesbury Plan. We've got an Appendix A, and did you want to say anything in this bit, Paul?
Yeah, thank you. So obviously a number of people in the meeting were actually at the meeting anyway, so may wish to add something. Apologies, the note from the meeting does include some recommendations as pointed out in the agenda, but they're not listed at the top, which makes it slightly less helpful than would normally be the case. But it's essentially the recommendations are to for the group to agree prioritising creating an evidence base for the 35% social housing, and also to make a final push at writing to neighbouring parishes, but not to make a huge effort to include other neighbouring parishes that don't wish to take part. And that would to agree the proposed timeline which was sent to the committee, and to recommend to commission professional organisations to carry out a survey. So that would be a substantial survey to build the evidence base for the refresh, and to do one survey and do it properly and pay someone to do it properly on our behalf. So that would be using the earmark reserve available for the neighbourhood plan. Obviously, the actual specific commission piece of work would come back to this committee to agree to approve before it was actually commissioned, but to agree in principle to do that piece of work. They're the recommendations in the report.
Thank you very much, Paul. Can I see Robin's hand? Would you like to speak?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just I sent my apologies to that meeting, and you haven't recorded apologies in it. I was actually in another meeting at Buckinghamshire Council, so I couldn't actually be in two places at once. So as I gave my apologies, I'd like them recorded. Okay. I think the meeting was looks like a good meeting. Many of the areas which I would have wanted to raise have been raised, and I think it's a good stepping stone. And the thing which is very poignant is the Buckingham Design Group are going to be feeding into the plan, which I think is a good thing to be doing. Plus the fact that we're coming close to, I probably think it was 20 years now coming up since that was originally done. So I understand they're looking at renewing that, and it would be nice if the two things were done together, wouldn't it? As one, you know, but I think that was a good meeting by the looks of it.
It was, thank you. I see Paul Hiram's your hand up.
Yes, I'm shown as present there, but I wasn't.
Oh,
Well, you were representing me, Paul.
Yeah.
We will amend both those points.
right. So anybody else want to make a comment on this? Are we happy to accept the recommendations in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you very much. Okay, I've just got to whiz back up to the top of the agenda. 1 minute. Okay, so, all right, sorry about this. It's a hassle of scrolling back up. Okay, action reports, item 5, appendix B. Would anybody like to say anything on this one? Is there any hands up, Paul?
I can't see it. Oh, Councillor Harvey.
Councillor Harvey?
Yeah, it's with reference to the comment about the tree policy. I wonder whether we need to have a working group looking into our response to future applications from insurance companies, which seems to be a worrying trend. And I wonder whether we as a council need to kind of organise ourselves, take some sort of soundings from other bodies, see whether it's happening across the country, do some investigations and come up with a view, and then try and persuade perhaps the Buckinghamshire Council to a new policy as well. But I do think we were caught in a sense unawares by this. I know I was, and perhaps others were too. And I think we ought to have a clear policy on it. And I think that's going to need a bit of thinking side, on the side, informed by research that the town clerk and perhaps others can do, and then come together with a view as to what we should do in the future.
Funnily enough, in the planning preview meeting, we'd asked Catherine if she can have a look at how many trees we've actually lost. So that would feed into a report and find out, what's going on in our town, because we have lost an awful lot of trees. And I know Mark sent an email round, Councillor Cole sent an email round saying that parents had spoken to him outside the primary school, thinking that it was our fault why the 3 trees had been felled up there. So we certainly do need to do something, but yeah, thank you for that, John. Right, I can see Robin and Martin, but I don't know which order your hands went up. Paul, do you know?
Sorry, no, I don't.
I put my left hand up first. Shall I put my right hand up now?
So, all right, okay, I'll take Martin, then I'll take Robin.
Oh, no, just to confirm what you were saying there, and those comments that Roger has made via email to us, in that, there was no investigation holes or other conditions made. So I think that's a swell idea that you've got there to put some process in place, Councillor Harvey.
Thank you. Robin?
Well, thank you very much, Chairman. Just on 2 things. On the trees which we referred to, I think it's apparent that we need to start collating a list of what trees are now missing, and collating a list of where they were before, because it's evident from Councillor Cole's comments that we are inadvertently being suggested that why didn't we stop them, when quite evidently we have no powers to stop them removing these trees. That's the planning authority. So that needs to be made clear. But also, the skyline of Buckingham is changing rapidly, isn't it? We are losing trees at a steady pace now over the past period before the Buckinghamshire Council, and it seems to have gathered at pace, hasn't it? So I think we do have a responsibility to record this and just at some point enter into a discussion about this with the public, because once we've lost all these trees, the skyline of Buckingham won't be the skyline of Buckingham as we grew up knowing it, and whatever. So I'd like to propose that we start to do that. And secondly, the coring system, you may or may not know, there's a motion going to council at Buckinghamshire Council on the 21st. Dependent on how successful that meeting is, that motion may be determined. I am in discussions with the cabinet member on that, and hopefully we may find a way forward which is beneficial and moves the situation forward. I have to respect, remembering the situation, the cabinet member never wrote the constitution, so I think he may move towards our opinion, and we'll see that on the 21st, and that may come back to council then after he's made those decisions, because this is a big thing, the call-in and the way it works, and this was about the constitution. If you recall that we had problems with the constitution,
Definitely,
the motion should have been heard back in July, but the council meeting in July runs on so long, the motion never got heard.
Yeah,
but we have maintained a conversation since July, the cabinet member and I, about this. I'm hoping that may be resolved positively at the next council meeting. And it's not for me to say what his amendment might be, but he has suggested a form of words which come some way towards where we would want to be.
Brilliant. Thank you, Robin. On your first point, I did say when I was replying to John that in our planning preview meeting, we'd already discussed with Catherine to compile a list of the trees that we've lost. So, you know, that's going to be taken in hand. And if anybody wants to help her with that, then that's absolutely fine. I'm sure she wouldn't mind. Okay, is anybody else?
Councillor Harvey and Councillor Mordew.
Okay, in that order then, please, gentlemen.
Just to could I ask that the town clerk, I mean, I think counting the trees that have lost is a very important datum that we need in any kind of future work on our strategy and policy. But could I ask and propose that we ask town clerk to come back to the next meeting of the planning committee or a subsequent one with a report on what might be the scope of a working group and how we might take this forward. So it isn't just a question of counting how many trees have gone, but actually preparing some ideas about how we might prevent any further trees being cut down that we think are unnecessary and shouldn't be happening, as it were.
Of course. Yeah.
Is that agreed?
Paul, what do you think?
That sounds very sensible. Yeah, happy to. It's much better to bring something back to be clear about what we're doing first. That'd be quite helpful.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Mordew.
First of all, the whole thing was about lifting the tree preservation order that applied to those trees, which was what was done. It's not a question about wholesalely chopping down trees. And there was definite evidence that the trees were causing subsidence to that property. And that was in the arboriculturist report. Now, each case is taken on its own merit. And yes, the trees were somewhere away, but for anybody living on Page Hill, they will know that as these trees have grown up, it's caused problems with the foundations. And there's another one on 3 Carisbrooke Court where they're having to chop down a chestnut tree. Now, I am not a tree expert, I don't profess to be, but the actual procedure was that there would be a claim against the council for the damage caused, and that underpinning would be necessary, but those trees were owned by the council. Unless they did something about it, then there would be significant costs awarded. And this is why they chose to follow the professional advice they had, which was to remove up to 3 trees and plant 3 silver birches in their place. And there are silver birches already planted along Page Hill. So as much as I hate seeing trees chopped down, there's a lot of talk about trees, and especially when it comes to using paper, and none of these trees are suitable for paper making. And they were about probably just about halfway through their life anyway. So you've got to face the fact that trees don't live forever. Oak trees go on for hundreds of years, but field maple leaves trees have a much shorter life. So before you get too concerned, we've got to look at the trees that have been planted. And these were planted by the old borough council when Page Hill was first developed. And this was the first part of Page Hill up here, which was actually developed and they used the landscaping, but they planted the wrong trees in respect.
Okay, thanks for that. I mean, I don't think the issue really is about what trees we can use for paper. It's more about our environment and, you know, street scene. And we discussed previously that, you know, we appreciate that there are issues with houses that are nearby, but at our last meeting, I think it was, Roger made a good point that there are things that can be put in place to help these things. So, you know, I do think it's worthy of having a working group to still discuss this. Did we agree that, by the way? Could we have a little show of hands for Paul to bring that back to our next meeting? Yeah, thank you very much, everybody.
Councillor Cole had a hand
Yeah.
as well.
Oh, sorry, Mark.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard what Howard said, but I'm afraid I can't agree. I was called by 4 people on Friday to say they're felling the trees, these maple trees. What are you doing to stop it? I had to explain it's not us. It's not Buckingham Town Council. We'd actually vehemently opposed this. I think it's destroyed the landscape up there. As Howard said, these trees were planted in 1976. They're not big trees. They were maples. They're very pretty maples as well. The little group, they were a long way from the house wall of the householder who's been complaining about this, but it's not so much, it's his insurers. I looked in vain, having seen there was an arboricultural report which was ordered and paid for by the insurers. So I looked in vain for the tree officer's report on the website. There was nothing. So where was the tree officer? Why was he asleep during this? One of our district councillors, Shire councillors, Warren White, actually raised this as well, and he replied to me a couple of days ago to said, I'm afraid the officers reviewed the situation and didn't change their views. I find this quite extraordinary. We're in a town, a beautiful market town. We're encouraged to have trees. The new government white paper on development is insisting that any new development must have tree-lined streets. And here we are cutting down trees when at the moment there's no proof that these small trees, which maples don't have huge roots, that they're damaging a property that's at least 30 feet away. And I'm aware of what Roger told us, and I think Roger again today replied when I sent those photographs out to say he could see no evidence of any trial holes next to the property nor tree roots being in existence of the building. It's not a huge matter to put guards in to prevent roots from encroaching, but I think this is too far away from that house personally. And I'm appalled. As I said, I was accosted by a number of parents this morning when I was taking those photographs outside the school, and one person even went as far as to say to me, there's an election coming up in May, so you know, you'll find out what we think of Buckingham Town Council cutting down our trees then. So they might have the wrong end of the stick, but it's going to have a knock-on effect.
That's very disappointing to hear. All right, thank you for that, Mark. Robin, I can see your hand up. I was putting my thumb up to say to you that I could see you, but we haven't worked out code yet.
Oh,
so
thank you. I think to parody Howard's comments are misplaced and probably ineffectual. What we were looking at is the total amount of trees lost in Buckingham. What I believe will come out of any group that meets is examination of where they were removed. The skyline of Buckingham is the skyline of Buckingham. It's the skyline that we are protecting, because the trees in Page are as important to the people in other parts of the community, because we benefit from the green environment. The one thing that I think perhaps we could consider is writing to someone like the Beaconsfield Society and ask them how they are encountering such loss of trees in Beaconsfield, because if they're not, why are we? Buckinghamshire is one county now under one council, and we should seek clarity on it. I study them quite widely lately, and they seem to be a very proactive bunch of people. So I would think that we should make contact with them to ask them what's their opinion of Beaconsfield, just to get some clarity. Because if it's a problem of all of Buckinghamshire that's losing their trees in their leafy areas, or just Buckingham? Because I think we do need to have something to measure our statements against, and that might give us not an accurate statement, but something to benchmark our opinions against. I think it's always good to benchmark your opinions against something else rather than be isolationist. I'd like to put that forward as a suggestion. You know, because we do need to benchmark our opinions.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. Fab.
I'll second that, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Could we just ask if Roger would be prepared to conjoin the Buckingham Society to that, so that the request comes jointly from Buckingham Town Council and the Buckingham Society? Gives it a bit more clout.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so is everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
I am now, yeah.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. Was there anything else on the action reports before we move off? Did everybody say everything they wanted to say? Yep. Okay, thank you. Okay, so planning applications 6.1 and 2 is Moray Cottage, Morton Road, replacement gate. Does anybody have any thoughts or opinions on this one?
No.
No.
Councillor Cole has a hand.
Thank you very much. Mark?
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I think this is a very reasonable application. I'm impressed they've actually made the application, because it's not cheap to do this just for a doorway. The only thing is, I think we do need to take note of the Historic Building Officer's concerns about the bowing of the outside wall. And as long as that's addressed, I've got no problem with this.
Yeah, okay, so if no objections, subject to the Historic Officer's recommendations coming forward, is everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Robin? Muted? Not always a bad thing.
Oh, sorry about muting myself. I'll abstain on that.
Okay.
In case I get a chance to discuss it somewhere else, and I've noted what you said.
Thank you, Robin. Okay, 6.3, we've got to Jacob, Morton Road, phase 1, single story front extension, this one. Has anybody got any comments or thoughts on this application? No.
Councillor Cole.
Mark?
Thank you. Yeah, this is the addition of a front porch on the front of a nice row of houses. These are fairly modern, they are modern houses, but they're an attractive vernacular style. They fit in with Buckingham. The house we're looking at has already unfortunately had the street scene spoiled somewhat by 3 large dormer windows. They now want to put a front porch on, which again will spoil the street scene, because all the front doors here are flush with the houses. And I think to put a porch on is just going that bit too far, and it's going to spoil the street scene. And for that reason, I'm against it.
Okay, do we have any other thoughts? Is anybody else against it or for this?
Councillor Harvey and Councillor Hirons.
In that order, please, John.
I don't have any objections to this. I think a bit of more diversity in this housing estate is all to the good. I don't think it's going to encroach upon the streets in quite the dramatic way that Councillor Cole is suggesting. And I think if anything, it'll complement it, in my view. I mean, the problem with a lot of modern estates is that they are fairly uniform houses. And this will give it a bit of distinction. And I think that's all to the good. I can't quite see why they're doing it, because I guess it will give them a bit of extra warmth in their house, and I guess that's good for carbon and so on. Someone perhaps store muddy boots as well. But no, I think it's a good idea. It looks okay to me.
Thank you. So take Paul next. You're muted, Paul.
Have any of the other houses got porches built there?
No.
So this is always a problem. We have to immediately think, are we okay with everybody having a porch?
Well, you're right. It could start a chain reaction, and then they all look the same again, and then there's no difference. Yeah. Anthony?
I just wonder what the neighbours think, if there's been any objections or will be any objections lodged from close neighbours. That would be certainly an element I would look for.
There aren't any on the website yet, and amazingly, all the applications for consultation have got a site notice up already. So,
Right. Okay, so Robin, next.
Only just to ask through the clerk not to comment on the application. Under the changes in the way they're dealing with planning applications, whatever the decision of the committee, which I won't take part in, would this application run void of not coming under callings because of the size of the application could be determined by the officer's period, because it's not that huge. I think we need to know that, because we need to start looking at the way they're operating at the moment under the new guidance that they're operating, which is quite restrictive from what I can see. I'm no expert, but I've looked at it and thought it was quite restricted. So I seek some advice through Catherine on that, before, not to influence you, but to ask before you make your decision.
the application is a class that could be called in. Where we're falling down at the moment is getting somebody to do that. I mean, neither of the applications we opposed at last meeting have been taken up for calling in. Councillor Mills is looking into it, but he is not terribly enthusiastic at the moment, but he's gone for advice. So Councillor Cole hasn't actually replied at all.
Catherine, I don't know if you're able to bring your camera down a little bit, but we can all just see your forehead. Thank you.
Councillor Cole has a hand.
Yeah, could I just,
Mark?
if you can see this, an advice note has been sent out today about planning application crawling process notes. I got it this evening. I think Catherine got it via Councillor White. Christine Urry at Buckinghamshire Planning wrote it on the 5th of October. We've just seen it today, but there are some pointers in there about calling in. It doesn't actually specify what size of application it has to be, but as Catherine says, if it's a planning application, yes, then we have the right to ask for it to be called in.
All right, so at the moment we've got Mark objects spoiling the street scene, John doesn't object, adding diversity brings a bit of a distinction, Paul concern over other neighbours, they could all ask for one. So we've got two on the table really, we object or we don't. So we'll have to go to the vote on this one.
I propose we object then. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, John, are you proposing that we
have it? We need a seconder.
That's true. I don't know how I feel about this one. Does anybody second objecting?
Well, I will, just so we can have a vote.
Okay. And John, are you proposing that?
I'll just vote against Mark's motion. It's okay.
All right, no worries then. Okay, so hands up for objecting to this application.
That's two, Councillor Coles and Councillor Hirons.
Those who don't object to this application.
Councillors O'Donoghue, Try and Harvey, that's 3.
Abstentions?
Councillors Stutchbury, Ralph and Mahi.
Okay. So we're not objecting to this application. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, and next one is 6 Cornwall's Centre. You've all read this one, I hope.
Yes.
What are members' thoughts on this? Paul and then Martin.
Well, down here, there's a lot of cafes already there, and they've all managed to get it. So I don't think we need prior approval in respect of noise impacts, odour impacts, storage, handling of waste, impacts of hour of opening, transport and highway. You can see it in front of you. It seems, you know, all very large requirement, or what they're suggesting that we're voting on. It isn't whether we like this one or not. It's really whether we think you need all that information. And I think we don't for this where it is, because it's an area which has plenty of this type of development in already.
Okay, so you're not objecting to this
Agreed.
application?
Well, yeah.
I second Paul.
Okay, so John seconding. Right, I can see Robin's hand.
Just to seek some verification, not to object it, but or approve it, but we do need to clarity on the opening hours and stuff, because
says it in there, Robin.
It does. That's fine then. Didn't see that. Apologise. I'll shut up then. Thank you.
Roger?
Yeah, well, just to clarify, this under the new use classes order, what they're proposing doesn't actually require permission, but they put these applications in for lawful use to attach conditions to it, such as opening hours and stuff like that. So if they wanted to, they could just go ahead and do this without actually requiring permission. In the old days, you used to write into the council and say, do I need permission for this? And they just write back and say no or yes. But now you have to go through this legal process. So technically they don't require planning permission, but they need to go through all this process just to ensure that if the council wanted to add any conditions, then they can.
Okay, thank you very much. Does the Buckingham Society have an opinion on this?
No.
Okay. Nice and quick, that's what I like. Okay, is there any other hands up?
Councillor Cole.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, the reason that this brought to our attention was they posted a licensing application on the front door about a month ago, which is why we picked this up, and Catherine very kindly chased it up for us, and this is what we've got in front of us tonight. We're trying to save Buckingham, we're trying to save the town centre. This is someone who's already in the town centre operating 2 successful businesses. They want to open a 3rd one. Good luck to them. Let's have it. It's not going to cause any problems. There's no residents anywhere nearby here. And in fact, we're going to have an old people's home eventually opening up just across the way. So it'll be something for them as well. So let's encourage this. I'm all in favour.
There'll be somewhere for them to go and have a coffee if it ever floods, won't it?
Yep. Yeah. When it does flood, Robin, come on.
Yeah.
All right, Catherine.
Can I just correct Councillor Cole there? These are not linked to the other 2 cafes in the vicinity. They're a different firm, and we were approached for formal consultation. Oh. It arrived. I mean, I know Councillor Cole noticed the licensing application up, but about the same time I got the form for doing a formal consultation.
Thank you.
But yes, I mean, I'm with Roger on. We've had these COU things before, and it is just a question of making sure that all the boxes are suited, and their hours are fine.
Yeah.
No different from anybody else's.
Absolutely.
We'll just have to watch that they don't just cover the entire paving in tables and chairs, the 3 of them, so that nobody can get past.
All right, so can I have hands up for not objecting to this application, please?
Councillor O'Donoghue, Ralph, Try, Hirons, Cole, Mahi and Harvey. 7.
Is that everybody?
Abstentions?
Oh, Robin.
Councillor Stutchbury.
Is that everyone? We only got 8 tonight. Oh, Howard's dipping in and out.
It's Roger.
I don't have a vote because I'm not actually formally on the committee. I'm just
thanks, Howard. Okay, thanks for that, everybody. So our next one is 29 Plover Close, extending an existing rear conservatory. What do members feel about this one?
Fine.
Nothing?
No objection, I would have thought.
Yeah. All right, hands up for not objecting to this application then, please.
Donahue, Ralph, Try, Hirons, Harvey, Mahi and Cole.
Abstentions? Thank you, Robin. Okay, and next, well, now we're getting on to not for consultation. Even though they're not for consultation, would anybody like to speak about number 6? No? Anybody like to speak about number 7? Buckingham Primary School for Scott Way Works to Trees? No?
This one's coming back to next meeting, Chairman, because there was a bit of a difficulty about it. We've now resolved.
Okay. Okay. Our next one, 6.8, is the phone box outside M&Co. We did discuss this at full council, and I'd just like to say it again now because it's on our agenda that I don't think it should be removed because there are going to be people who might need to use it in emergency situations if they're in fear of their life or are being controlled by somebody and they're not allowed a mobile phone or their mobile phones are being tracked or searched. They may need a phone that they can call for help from. So I think it's the wrong decision to remove this. Right, I've got Robin's hand up.
There was a serious correspondence around this. Catherine provided to council, my recollection, quite clear evidence of why it wouldn't need to be and shouldn't be removed. I'm not sure where, as we commented at council, do we need to comment again? But the one thing I would ask is perhaps we should write to our MP and ask him whether he wants to be involved in the removal of the last telephone box in Buckingham. Because the points which I believe you made yourself, Chairman, at the last meeting, which were the ones that rung clear with me, any person who's in an abusive relationship may not be able to use their mobile phone and they may not be able to make a call safely from within the house. And they may not feel comfortable enough to go and make contact with a friend or neighbour through fear of it being known. And I think this is one of the things that you raised at council, and it resonated with me very strongly, that this is a lifeline to vulnerable people and children in the community. And if it's gone, that lifeline's then removed. And I think those points you made at council were the strongest points made that evening, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments, Robin.
Councillor Mahi has a hand.
Thank you very much. Andy?
Thank you, Chairman. And the other point I don't want this one to be removed because if you lose your mobile phone, the only way you can get a hold of the telephone company or the people surprised through a landline to tell them that you've lost the phone. Otherwise, there is no other way. So I think we should still keep it.
Thank you. There are a lot of people that you think, everybody talks to their neighbours, but there are a lot of people that still feel quite isolated or they're made to be isolated. Okay, so on to item 7, planning decisions. Everybody's read those. Have we got any comments about any of those before I move on? No.
Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I draw your attention to 10 Hilltop Avenue, which is the close bordered fencing of a green area in a garden shed, which we were opposed, for the reasons of It's on a corner plot and would be an overly dominant structure and harmful to the open character of the area. We opposed it. We asked the nearest Shire councillor if he'd call it in for us. He declined, as he said there was no planning reason not to. Interesting that the planning officer has refused it on planning grounds, the ones exactly that we quoted, harmful to the open character of the area and appears visually prominent within the street scene. They have 6 months to appeal. Whether they will or not, we don't know, but we should be careful. Take note that 3 applications below that, 33 Borton Road, which is on the junction with Moorhem Way, retention and completion of boundary wall and inclusion of land within the residential curtilage, which both we and Buckinghamshire Council had opposed because it was blocking off that corner. The appeal has been allowed by the inspector, so we lost that one. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mark. Right, Roger.
Councillor Harvey. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. All right, I'll go with Paul.
Yeah, just to pick up on what Councillor Cole said there, I think it's quite. I think it's a very important point that a Shire councillor refused on the grounds that he thought it wasn't a planning issue, and then it's been proven correctly that it in fact it was, and therefore it causes the question the whole process whereby Shire councillors are or are not calling in applications that we, in our considered opinion, have objected to. So I'm sure Councillor Stutchbury will be making a note of that point when it comes to debating the motion before the Buckinghamshire Council, because there are some big holes in this process. It's not for Shire councillors to determine whether something does or doesn't have a planning issue. That's surely a matter for bodies like ours to advise on, and indeed, obviously, bodies like the Buckinghamshire Council Planning Committee to decide on overall. It's not for an individual council to make that judgment, is it, surely?
Councillor Mordew and Councillor Stutchbury have hands.
All right, for a member to call in a planning application, it's quite specific in the Constitution that there has to be a material planning reason, not just a planning reason, but a material planning reason. And it then has to be agreed by the chairman of the planning area committee and the director responsible for planning. Now, unless if there's a major thing like, I don't know, say they wanted to build an abattoir on Page Hill, which is a material reason, you can't just call it in for a planning reason. But there are very good planning reasons why it would be refused. And that's why I think that no member actually called in, because it couldn't be called in under the normal material planning reasons. But there were planning reasons to object to it. I know it's a bit confusing, but hopefully it will be sorted out, the whole question of what you can call in the Constitution.
Thank you, Howard. Right, I'll take Robin, then I'll take Roger, because you both had hands up earlier.
Well, that was a fascinating response, wasn't it? No, the reality is that this was asked to a member to be called in. It's quite plain and simple. We have a very good support system here where Catherine, if asked, will provide the reasons why we wish to object to it, or the council wishes to object to it. Now, I think there is some grounds here where maybe the system is creaking. Yeah, I've called applications in and I've managed to fit that. I saw the first ever call in was by now a member of parliament who represents Milton Keynes. I mean, it's a public record. Apart from saying he felt it was terrible, I don't think that was, and it's a public record in the minutes. I sat in the meeting. It wasn't great grounds to call it in. And the other councillor had very little other reasons. It went to committee. Coincidentally, that decision, the council had reversed its objections to it. So it went through anyway, because that's how it works. The council had changed its decision based on the evidence presented. So there wasn't a problem and their calling was superficial. But to suggest that it's such a difficult job to call them in when we provide the information, it's if I was to disagree as a Shire Council or Buckinghamshire Council with the information. That would only be my reason not to call it in. But I am concerned that it should not be just one councillor calling these in, because I wouldn't be in and out of my position in a meeting, could see untenable on both sides permanently. So I do like to see the information, to speak to Council, whether it would premise into my discussions of 5 minutes to a motion going to Council John. Who knows? Depends how much how fast I can talk and how much I can fit into 5 minutes. But the Constitution allows me 5 minutes, and I expect I will probably use it. And it'd be a shame not to, wouldn't it? But from that point of view, I do think, can I have those information sent to me so I can at least read it and understand the difference there? Because it is a salient point, isn't it? That we were turned down because there was no planning reasons. Yeah. And there were planning reasons from the professional officer found planning reasons. There's quite a difference there, isn't there? And I'm not a qualified planner, so I need advice when I do anything. I don't think I know enough to think that I'm a planner.
I think that's one of the issues here, is where we're making a decision, we're asked for our opinion, and then we're asking the applications to be called in by someone who isn't a trained planner. And then it's going on to the next stage. So, you know, but we've been saying this since day dot. Roger, would you like to speak?
I just wanted to, while I'm sat here, apologise to the Buckingham Town Council, because for the Bolton Road appeal, number 33, he's a friend of mine, and I did his appeal for him. So I thought, I'll just while I'm sat here, I thought, sorry about that. You can blame me for that.
Chairman, do we have the facility to fine members of the committee?
Not in their professional capacity, I'm sure.
Roger, this is why we need you. This is why you should be a councillor on planning.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Well, thank you for everybody's comments on that. And your apology is accepted, Roger. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll buy you all a pint at Christmas.
Excellent. Thank you. But white wine will be better. Thanks, though.
Done.
Okay. Are we happy to move on to item 8 now? Yep.
Yeah.
So 8.1, to receive news of the Shire Council's new documents and other information from council members present. So our Shire members, have you got any news for us?
Councillor Morty.
Okay.
First
of all, I appreciate Roger's offer to buy a pint for everyone, but I feel as Vice Chairman of the Standards Committee, I should decline that.
Noted. Thank you.
First of all, Catherine wrote to me regarding the lack of notification when there were certain issues came up, such as listing building consent with changes, in particular to Station House on Tinchik Road. She wasn't notified. And I've written to Warren as chairman, and also the director responsible for services, asking that parish and town council should be notified when there are any material changes, and so, especially in that case where there's a marked change to what was wanted down there. I haven't had a response yet because he was on holiday, but as soon as I get a response, I'll come back. And again, it's something that's will be thought about. The other thing is there's been significant changes in the classification. You know, we used to have B1, B2 and so on. I don't know whether that's been notified to the planning committee or not. The changes come into effect, and people can, I'll ask Catherine whether she's aware of all the changes gone on that are actually taken place on planning, in planning law.
Started on 1st of September.
Yeah, that's right.
And they're beginning to feed into the system.
That's all right. but it's worthwhile that members of the planning committee are brought up to date with how much things have changed. There has been a workshop. I think there's going to be one planned for members, because it's significant changes that's happened, and things can creep through very easily.
Yeah, we actually discussed this, I think, at our last planning meeting. So, yeah, I'm sure we did.
Yep.
But if there is a workshop at all, then or training, then I'm sure we would all really appreciate that. Thanks, Howard. Robin, have you got any news for us?
Small pieces. Sue Kitchen felt that she was going to prepare some training, but I think at the moment that hasn't happened. But her intention is to bring some training at some point for councillors. 3 actions I've taken which are relevant to the decisions of the town council is one, tomorrow I'll have a response to my question about, which has been an ongoing concern of the council, about why so many applications lay undetermined and what is the reason for that. I've seen the response, but that's not public yet, and I wouldn't break that confidentiality. But the cabinet members responding to that tomorrow, which I thank him for. 2, I've premised earlier, I've got a motion going to council round the issues of the Constitution. And lastly, I've submitted a motion which, depending on other meeting processes, on seeking Buckinghamshire Council to object and abstain from the government's planning white paper. Now that's separate to this, because that was such a strong depth of feeling here, and where I've encountered it. I submitted that motion on the 24th of August just to make sure that I'd got it in time for 21st of October. I didn't want them to miss it in any shape or form. So that will go to the 21st of October. How that motion proceeds, I do not know. I've had no conversation yet about the bones of it. Although I will say tomorrow the cabinet agenda, one of my second questions, which I probably won't ask now because the cabinet agenda addresses their reaction to their consultation over the government white paper. So it would be a waste of time asking them that question, because they just refer to, we can't answer that till we've discussed it. So it's on the agenda and tomorrow. So that's a few things that I've been doing, actions I've taken. I hope they're in line with your council. I'm speaking as a shire councillor and the town councillor. I hope they're in line with what you would have wanted.
Thank you, Robin. Okay, everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Yep, thank you. Okay, so discuss applications to be called in and what shire council wishes to volunteer, or we wish them to volunteer for this. So we've got what have we got to object?
You haven't got no objections to everything.
We have, haven't we? God, our shire councils get off light.
Well,
Excellent.
we've got one hanging over from last meeting because Councillor Cole hasn't come back to us on it. And that's the flats at the Pytle.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's incredibly disappointing that he's not helped on anything so far, I have to say. All right, well, should we discuss that now? Who do we ask to call that one in? If that's hanging over from our last one. Is that on our Appendix D, Catherine? Would that show up on that Appendix D?
Should do.
Yeah.
Councillor Cole and
Chairman, I think we need to give Councillor Simon Cole the courtesy of the chance to answer us on the call in before we take it any further.
Oh, he's had since the last meeting because I offered them the day after.
Okay, no, fair enough then. I withdraw that then, thank you.
He's got form on this, Mark, for sure. I'm sure, you know. Okay, well, if we move on to the next appendix anyway. Has anybody got anything to say?
Just on the call-ins. I mean, it's I'm tardy about this matter in the sense that I don't think it's right that we should have all the councillors, we should keep going to the cabinet member to call these things in. He has called in some things on our behalf. I don't think it's right to keep approaching him, although as it's on that side of the town, it might be something he's minded to do so. It would be a shame if we had to then come to this side of town, because I do remember, I think it was Councillor Charlie Clare said he wasn't happy to call something in because it wasn't in his area.
Correct.
On one call in, then it was in his area.
Yeah.
So I think we do have to again, I was rather hoping to speak to this application uninterrupted at some point at planning, because I've got my own views. So I'm not wanting to be the one who calls this in on your behalf, because that my views might not be 100% in agreement with you, and that would be wrong and prejudice me. So I don't want to be the one that does it. But if nobody does it, and Howard isn't doing it, or no other council, and the chairman of the planning committee, Councillor Feely, is one of our councillors as well, I think we should extend it out to everyone, bar me, if possible. I'm not jerking my responsibilities, but I do think that I am burdening quite a large burden of the call-ins.
Definitely.
And I don't. It would just look silly if it was just one councillor, wouldn't it? Plus Councillor Warren White as well. I mean, it's about time others took some of the slack on this.
I don't think I disagree with you saying that you'd look silly. I think it just shows how hard you work for us and how hard the others don't clearly work for us.
I don't want to comment on how hard and what they work. It's just the reasoning around it. That's for them.
You wouldn't look silly at all.
That's for them to live by. But I do think, can we stretch it out and just try to get somewhere on this one? Because eventually we'll get to a point where exactly. And I don't think that's fair on the cabinet member for planning. And
it's not fair on either of you, Robin.
No, I don't think it's fair.
No. All right, members' thoughts, please, on the call-ins. Right. Catherine, I can't see this one on.
No, appendix. You're right. I thought I'd updated the list, but hold on a second. I'm just going to dive off and go and look at my files.
Members can see who's been doing what on the list anyway.
Yeah, but I should have added those two on the bottom of the list, and I thought I had.
That's okay. You've been busy. You've had loads of applications in today.
Not to mention the white paper.
Yeah.
Come on. There we go. I've got them on mine.
Ah. All right. Do you want to read out the one that we asked Simon to do?
Title Crescent, 8 flats in the garage area of the Crescent. And that was going to go to Councillor Simon Cole. As I said, the M&Co one has gone to Councillor Mills, who is dubious about it, but has gone for expert opinion.
All right, members, who should we ask to call in a vital application?
I have my hand up, Chairman.
Sorry, Mark, I can't see you.
Yeah, I propose that we give Councillor Cole another chance to call this in. This is a major planning application. It's in his ward, so I think that let's ask him again and see if he will help us out on this, as we are the representatives of his constituents.
In light of him not doing so, can we have a backup, please?
Councillor Mills.
Yeah. Okay. Members, we agree. Councillor Mills, if Councillor Cole refuses again. Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. Thank you. That was the only one, wasn't it, Catherine?
Yep.
Okay.
As I say, I'm waiting for Councillor Mills to come back on the other one, but at least he's being active on it.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll love us off having another one added to him. Okay, we are now on item 9, government consultations. Receive information. The Shire Council's response to planning to the future and covering letter, Appendix E. Would anybody like to speak on this item? No one? You're happy just to receive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Receive it.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
So someone saying something?
Yeah, it's Councillor Cole again.
Councillor Cole, sorry.
Just to note, we have received it. I'm not impressed. It's full of spelling errors, literals. And when it starts off at the beginning, it said, what are the 3 major points? They make about 10. So someone obviously didn't read the questions properly. But generally, yeah, I think they're in agreement with what we're saying, largely. But there's a lot of work to be done on bringing ours in together with theirs.
Yeah.
Councillor Stutchbury.
Thank you.
Yeah, it premised in some points what it would like about it, and then in other points it premised what it didn't like about it, and then it sort of contradicted itself and congratulated itself, and then came to the conclusion that in the bounds of possibility it wasn't positive. Well, it wasn't as strong-minded as I'd hoped it had been. It sounded like a joint proposal of many different opinions. We're not all in agreement. I thought the letter was better than the proposals, but I do think to comment on it when they're going to comment on themselves tomorrow, it could be that they may seek to do it, and it is going to be discussed, I presume, hopefully. So if they are minded to be in line with the views of the town council, perhaps the council will follow Milton Keynes and be united across the scope in its defrayal or criticism of the white paper, because it is noted that Milton Keynes Council managed to cross the Rubicon and all political parties were united in their objection to it. And there has been one of the things that this paper has managed to achieve nationally is unite councillors against a government proposal, which is in local government isn't an often, Milton Keynes is one of the most political councils we're likely to have, and if they can find agreement, let's hope that Buckinghamshire Council can find a way of all being in agreement with it, because the things that concern me in it, Chairman, are the very things we discussed endlessly before when we discussed the consultation. It's the local influence over planning which is being diluted. The assumption that government can place large accommodations with no little consultation, and even those consultations will have no possibility of being objected to. And the thing that worries me about it, just at the time that we, for the first time in living memory and all in memory, we have a council which can do unified planning and development plans. Having somebody else, 3 people in a marriage, the local people, the statutory authority and the government doesn't work. It's a bigamous relationship, and they should leave local government to be local government. I don't think that's a successful relationship, especially as one is the legislative body. And I hope that the council is minded to go along this way. Not to do so would be, I think, regretful and not good for us, because I don't know what the MPs feel on this, and we didn't we agree to write to the Member of Parliament and the Secretary of State on this matter. And I'm not sure whether we've had a response to those correspondence. One was to seek consultation, one was to register our objection to it. Because I know we, you know, so I remain concerned, though encouraged that it isn't a straight, well, this is wonderful.
Yeah.
I suppose this is political, so I shouldn't expect them to be quite so tardy about it as myself. But I you know, I wait to be impressed, and I hope to be impressed. That's my view on it. If we got
positive thinking, love positive thinking.
Yeah, if we got to where Milton Keynes was on it, that would be a great thing for Buckinghamshire, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Paul or Catherine, do we know if there's a reply to any letters that are sent out to our MP?
It would come to Paul.
I haven't received anything.
Okay. All right. We'll keep on top of that. Thank you.
Could I just ask, Chairman, if we do have any replies to it, if it comes in the week running up to the 21st, can I at least have some sight of it? Because if I am talking to a motion on that day, there might be some important points in there that I need to know.
It'll get circulated to all members, Robin.
Thank you.
That'll be fine. There's going to be nothing in there that'll be secret or confidential. Yeah, it'll get Paul will send that round. That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so 9.2, to receive the draft responses to the white paper. Catherine, can I firstly thank you for your incredible hard work doing this?
Here.
It's very, very thorough and very, very good. And thank you to all members who replied and sent their comments.
I mean, the members who replied did most of the work for me. I just had to refine it into one single answer.
Yeah, but that takes time, and I know how long that time can take. So I'd like our thanks to be minuted. If everybody's good with that, thank you. Okay, so it says to receive it, but does anybody would like what?
I just personally like to thank Catherine for deciphering what I sent her. I think
thanks, Robin.
That deserves a medal. I did send it in exactly immediately. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I only got a copy today of the agenda. We did do the 29th consultation as well, didn't we? That went off as well. I know you've done it, Catherine, but just tell me that we have.
It says at 9.3 that it's been sent and acknowledged.
Thank you. I'm sorry if it's a silly question, but if I don't ask it, I can't be told I'm wrong.
That's why I put it in the agenda.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so does anybody want to just say anything on Appendix F? Mark?
Councillor Cole.
I propose that we make this our formal response from the Town Council.
Yeah. Well, it says to agree. It's our formal response. Can I have a show of hands? Second hands.
Councillors Donoghue, Ralph, Try, Harvey, and Stutchbury and Cole.
Okay.
6.
Could I make a proposal for you, Chairman, that we publish our formal response in a press release so that people know what we've actually said, please? Because I think that there's nothing going to be more important about planning than this. So I'd like to propose
pages 1 to 6 of the advertiser, Robin.
What?
Boring.
No, I seriously think when people wake up to the effects of this on the way that they live their lives in the next 50 years, and if we find that we've got 2 accommodations the size of Milton Keynes stuffed in North Bucks, and we've got to consider the Ark at some point, which is a prejudice to us. You know, this is important, and people should know. The comments made from Councillor Cole when people were concerned about trees, don't be concerned about the trees, because if this does its foremost on Buckinghamshire, there might not be any trees to worry about.
Okay, so what do members agree to our comments to go into a press release?
Yes, agreed.
I don't mind, but it's
Mark.
Yeah, I mean, just point of order, Chairman. I thought I was proposing a formal response to the town council, which means this now has to go to the town council to be ratified. And until we've done that, I don't think we can put out press releases.
Catherine, Paul?
It's got to be in by the end of the month, and we haven't got a full council.
Right.
And it is within the remit of this committee to respond.
I was just going to say that.
I'm happy.
We have agreed, and we voted and agreed on it.
Fine. I'm happy to be guided by that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mark. So yes to doing a press release so people know what we've replied to it. Yeah.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Okay. 9.3 to note the response to the planning for the future consultation, where we're noting that, aren't we? That's fine.
Yeah. Could we again thank Catherine for her work on that? The fact that we met those deadlines. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, Catherine. Again, can we minute that, please, Louise? Thank you. Right, item 10, Shire Council Committee meetings. First one was cancelled. Second one, no Buckingham applications. Would anybody like to say anything on these two before we move on? No?
Justice Touchbury.
Robin?
Just to refer you to what I said earlier, I placed a question about this, and I have to thank Catherine for assistance in providing relevant information for that question. And we will get something in tomorrow's, when tomorrow's minutes or statements published on why this is the situation, because it is very unsatisfactory that we see so many applications not processed.
Yeah.
So that should be answered tomorrow. Only just to say briefly, I said it earlier, but it's relevant because it's the same question.
Yeah, thank you. Catherine?
I'll just point out that the North Bucks Planning Committee has met once since April the 1st. Every other meeting has been cancelled. It's not just that we haven't had any applications to it, they have been cancelled.
All right. Roger?
Roger.
Can I just ask Catherine a question? Is the North Bucks Area Planning Committee, does that just deal with what the old planning committee at Aylesbury Vale dealt with, like extensions and smaller developments, or does that deal with everything?
Haven't tried it yet, Roger.
Oh, right.
Strategic sites, it seems to be very much bigger than the old major applications category.
Yeah.
So that the larger major applications would probably come to this.
All right.
But as I say, they haven't actually troubled themselves with either way yet. So
Excellent. Thank you for that.
So I think it's sad because meetings are happening over Zoom and Microsoft Teams, so there's no real good excuse for that. Okay, on to enforcement. 11.1. Note the following reports have been passed to the Shire Council. So we've got 16 Hilltop Avenue, PVC door, Manor Street, and building works at Bourton Mill. Would anybody like to speak on any of those three items?
No.
No? Okay. Next item, 11.2. Oh,
Councillor Ralph.
sorry, Anthony. You're muted, my love. Still muted, Anthony?
There we are.
There we go.
Bourton Mill. They did have a planning application in a while back to sort of enhance their sort of reception area and what have you. And I thought that had gone through. I wasn't aware of anything else they were doing. Have I missed something?
can I pass you to Louise on that one because she took the report?
Okay, thank you.
The neighbour reported that they were doing something behind their property. I think it was installing outdoor exercise bikes on a platform. Enforcement have taken it up. I haven't heard anything since then.
Okay.
I wouldn't have thought putting an exercise bike or two outside, it seemed like good COVID planning, but there we are.
Yeah, I'm not the planning expert. I think it was the way it was described, there was some sort of platform being built which does come under structures, which comes under things that you need listed consent for, as I understand it. Hopefully.
Thanks, Louise. Thanks.
Right, okay. Interesting one. Thanks, Louise. Any new breaches, anybody? John?
It's not really, actually, no, it's the next point, sorry. It's the signs. I'll come on to the next point. Sorry, I got that wrong.
That's okay. Okay, so item 12, draft Milton Keynes planning obligations, SPD. Anybody like to speak on this item? John or Robin? John?
Well, given that Robin and I are mentioned in the item, I guess I ought to speak to. I went to the link and I can't find the thing that I thought we were referring to, which was the protocol agreement between Milton Keynes councils and parishes and how they involve them in section 106. Because I went to the link and it didn't seem to be there. So I'm at a loss, to be honest. I think that was the reason why we wanted to bring it back, was we were waiting on them to produce a report based on their consultation. But I'm not sure that that's the way to find it. Perhaps Catherine can advise, please.
I found it all right on Friday and printed it off in the office. There it is.
I couldn't find it, Catherine. Could you send it to me? Is that possible? I don't have any comments. I think it was merely to comment on how better they do things in Milton Keynes when it comes to liaising with parish and town councils.
Well, yes, I can pass it over and put it on the next agenda.
Yeah, that would be good.
Agreed.
The link that's on the agenda, it does take you to the draft planning obligation supplementary plan document web page, because I got it on my iPad 3 times earlier during the day, and I've just clicked it now. And there's a list of documents at the bottom. There's 5 PDFs at the end, A, B, C, D, E. So, you're not getting that at all, John?
Yeah. Just can I comment on it? If you go to page, if you go,
I didn't scroll down that far.
If you go to page 5, if you go to page 5 of the document, it gives a very good sort of graph on how they do the process, which is really good because it shows you like identify needs, section 106, monitoring and triggering funding for projects. And that's the system they're working through. And if you go above it, it's who's involved, who's involved in the consultation. It's quite a good feed, and it goes into who they work with and and it goes down again into what their priorities are and how they work it. All this is probably old news to Roger, but it looked like they got quite a open process going on. So. And of course, community infrastructure levy and ceiling 2.8, which they mentioned, of course, that's likely to be demolished with the new government legislation anyway, when they're going to combine that money into a pot of which we don't know what it's going to be spent on. So it looks like their documentation, and how it goes into public artworks, well-being, carbon and offset, and all sorts of information. It's actually quite a really good document.
Yeah,
in fact,
I can see it now.
So sorry. It's always a great advantage in waiting to let somebody else speak first, John. No, I think we need to consider this and maybe get some guiding views of it and do a sort of part discussion about it, because we are doing an emerging local plan.
Yeah.
And I'm not of the opinion that Buckinghamshire Council's got all the answers. Milton Keynes Council's, not only has it been proactive historically in instantly having new parish councils in it, it's always had this inclusive attitude. And actually, to be fair to them, so did South Northants had an inclusive attitude with the town council in Brackley, in the sense that they instantly got them involved in the negotiations. I expect this new health centre they've got built, they probably were involved in that, and they probably pulled the Section 106 in the community to fund these things. So I think this is a good document. Perhaps we should take it to our Neighbourhood Plan Committee and recommend it to Buckinghamshire Council to adopt. Unless Roger thinks I'm wrong. I mean, he knows more about these things than I'm likely to know. He's got more than I know.
All right. I'll go to John.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely building on what Robin just said. I mean, fairly soon, I understand the Buckinghamshire Council is going to be producing their town and parish council charter, that they are going to be holding themselves to account for in terms of relationships of working with parish and town councils throughout the county. I'm not sure the parish and town councils have had very much of a big say in what this charter should be, which is of course somewhat ironic. But perhaps when it comes out, we may want to give our feedback on the planning aspects of that vis-a-vis what Milton Keynes are saying, and I'm looking to see what the town clerk's going to say now.
Paul.
I've certainly commented informally on it at various stages, but it's never been formalised until recently. I did send an email a while ago saying they wanted new people on a focus group to look at it, and Councillor Newell's on that focus group. But so far, there's only been one meeting that Ruth couldn't make, so I went instead, and it was a document that had been produced. So, but there is if there are things we'd like to feed into now and what we think should be in the charter, then now's definitely the time to send that those views in.
Well, can we see a draft of it then? I've not even seen a draft of it.
I don't know where it's at in terms of releasing drafts generally.
John, be rest assured, I haven't seen a draft of it either. But how
can we comment on it then, Paul?
Can I suggest something? We've just discussed something which is positive about inclusive reactions to Section 106 and agreements. We don't know what the new government legislation is going to be. We don't know how it will really look by the time it's gone through all its stages of legislation. But something will change. But I do think that we should premise some of our thoughts for that charter of parishes on this thing. The only way they're going to deliver on their pledge is to be inclusive. So as long as they don't use the same people they did to consult on the constitution for the council, we should be all right. Because that's my biggest burden at the moment, that constitution. Only this week I've had several problems with it. So
Paul was saying about the charter. John asked if there was a draft of it. What were you saying about the charter, Paul?
I don't think there's a public draft yet, and I'm not sure when the next focus group meeting is that Councillor Newell's going to go to. So I'll find those emails back, because it seems whether it's dropped off a little bit or whether I need to chase it, I'm not sure.
Because how can we have input in something that we haven't seen a draft of, or even a draft of a draft? It's a bit impossible to make comment in that case.
Don't worry, they brought the whole constitution in without consulting anyone, so I shouldn't worry about this. I mean, so I mean, they managed to get that through without consulting the opposition group. So I mean, that was brilliant. I was on the Shadow Authority. I never got asked my opinion on the constitution. No,
didn't at all. All right. Okay, so Paul, do you want to chase up what you can? Send it round to members, and again, can you send it around to all councillors? Because even though not everybody's on planning, it's all of our town, so we should all have an equal input in this.
Agreed.
And if there's any upcoming meetings, you might want to let members know, and if Ruth can't attend, somebody else might be able to go.
Yeah, I'll pass that around.
Thank you. Okay. Right, is everybody finished on item 12? We can move on to item 13.
Chairman, do you want me to bring this back to a future meeting now that Councillor Harvey's located it?
Yeah. John, it's a big. Everybody does it.
Scrolling down is always useful. Yeah. Yes, please, Catherine.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
He'll be well briefed by then.
Definitely. Okay, item 13, matters to report. Anyone? Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, just a couple. A sold sign at number 3 Nightingale Place is Ella. It's been up for more than 2 weeks now. I know there's an agreement with the estate agents. They take them down after 2 weeks. And the other thing is the flashing lollipop lights in Stratford Road, still flashing after 5 months, 24/7. I think Catherine said it's now in the hands of the technical department. Is that right, Catherine?
I passed it to Steve Essam, who is noted for getting stuff done. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all, Mark?
Thank you.
Okay, John.
Yeah, you know how we often want, when it says new road layout sign, we want those taken down because they leave them up forever. I was surprised because I took a walk up to the end of Tingebrook Road today, and where they've repainted the markings on the entry lanes. I'm surprised that they haven't heralded that for traffic going either way on the A421, and indeed as you approach from the Tingebrook Road. Because for people who've been used to using this roundabout for the last few months, this is a significant change, and there could well be vehicles that say coming up from Tingebrook direction who might get into what is now the right lane, but somebody who didn't know it's now the right lane might then be in the other lane, and you could cause an accident at the other end. So I do think there needs to be signs put up to say new road layout to just give people a hint that something has changed in the laning of that roundabout.
Good point.
Yeah, that's a fairly sensible suggestion there, John. Yeah, indeed. Robin?
Yeah, there was some correspondence with the office about the roundabout and the fact that the contractors had vanished again, and the fact that they were in the midst of works. So I think that roundabout and the developer and the contractors done, some of the work has been done. The curbing, remember we discussed the curbing on the roundabout being damaged, that seems to have been repaired, but it's not a great way to look at a roundabout slowing down around it because it's dangerous. But I did go around it 3 times to have a good look round it, and there was no traffic about, so it was quite safe. And the lining hadn't put down then. I will go and look at it again with the lining. They were out there. I did meet them on site some time ago, and they were doing a safety inspection of the roundabout. And all I can suggest is that that came out of the inspection, that they had to change the lines to suit. But Councillor, the previous mayor raised the question, didn't he, about the signage going down to the Tingebrook Road, and that still hasn't actually altered. Councillor Cole raised that, didn't he? So there are things to improve on it, and the sign has gone, which sits on the other side of the road, which if you can, it tells you there's a cemetery there, though we haven't got one, and on the other side that sign's gone, and they still haven't replaced the double sign up the road. Also, our signs for the Charter Fair have not returned, which they took out when they put that sign in. That was the place, I believe, that our signs for the Charter Fair, which we paid for by licence, to have a sign there. So there's a sign missing, and I think they just used that to put this new sign on. So that's something we do need to answer, because we pay good money for licence for those signs for the fair, and we're putting them underneath the welcome to Buckingham sign wasn't what was intended. There's supposed to be a draw out between. If you drive around Buckingham, you'll see these. If you go down the out past Mays Morton and down the road, you'll see there's some signs out that way. And if you go down the other way, you'll see some signs on the Stony Stratford Road. They were put there. Paula Heath organised all that many years ago. We had to pay a hell of a lot of money to Buckinghamshire County Council for a licence for them. So
Okay.
we do need to sort that out. Whether we can find the paperwork, heavens knows. But those things do need to be sorted out.
Thank you.
But
Right,
Steve
Mark,
just seems to be moving things forward, to his credit.
Thank you.
Mark and John.
Yeah, I can add to what Robin's asking about the double sign. The contractors apparently lost it, and is presumed destroyed. So they are doing a new one at the moment, the top half of it, and they've also got to extend the height of the posts. But they are going to add University.
That's right.
To go down Tindrick Road. They're not prepared to say town centre because they feel that there's too much of a traffic jam still when you get to Cannon Corner, having come up West Castle Street. But at least things are being done. So thank you for that, Robin. I know you worked very hard on that. And
well, just to say, Mark, it's really funny that they're adding the University, because some years ago when the Town Centre and Events Committee managed through Catherine's work to get all the signs commissioned, we asked whether we could add University to our signs. We were told we're not allowed to. You can't have an extra prefix. So let's just keep quiet about this, because we wanted the University on some of our signs and we weren't allowed to. So it's nice that they're now doing what they told us wasn't possible.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, we can't move mountains, can we?
No. Thanks for that, John.
Thanks for remembering that, Mark.
Yeah, just picking up on, because you emailed Mark and I, Catherine, earlier on this week with that email from Steve Essam, which mentioned the signs that Robin and Mark have just been talking about. You also mentioned about the dropped curbs on the new estate, Old Estate and so on, that's happening on the Tindrick Road, which I took action on too. And I think we ought to note as a committee that Warren tweeted earlier on this week that there's now going to be a proper traffic sign of who has right of way positioned next to Villiers Hotel, so that people are now going to be instructed to wait there until cars have turned in from Cannon Corner and so forth. And I think we want to say thanks for that. I think it's been a long time coming. We all know how it works for those of us who live locally, but for people who are new to Buckingham, it's a bit of a mystery, and having that sign in place will make it clearer.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Chairman's items.
Just on matters to report to enforce.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand. Sorry.
No, I was waving a pencil this time. It's not as big as my hands. I found a pencil. It's amazing. You can write with them. No, John contacted me today, and I took on board what he said about the rubbish on the bypass, which he raised in a correspondence Councillor Harvey did today. Though I've raised that question elsewhere, I think with John, you agree that it's worthy that we raise it from the town council's point of view, because what you did in your photographs, if you could give them to the town clerk or to the Catherine, it was quite a sight, wasn't it? And it's only going to get worse. This is in the lay-by. I'll let John talk to it, because he knows he's the person who raised it.
All right.
Yeah, I've been up past, in my effort to keep up my 10,000 steps a day, I've been up on various journeys around the town. And one of the journeys I've taken is along the Ring Road, and looked and, walked past as opposed to drove past the lay-by between the Tindrick Road and the Gorcott Road roundabouts. And the lay-by is frankly disgusting. There are no bins there, apparently, because Buckinghamshire Council don't believe in bins by lay-bys, but although Oxfordshire do for some reason. And as a result, people just leave a whole heap of rubbish. And although it isn't strictly speaking fly tipping, it's just a lot of littering, and it just needs someone to get up there with some sacks and just get rid of it all. And then maybe people won't feel so inclined to add more rubbish, because when there's rubbish, people think, oh, well, another can of Red Bull or another crisp packet or whatever isn't going to make a lot of difference. So we need to get up there and sort it out. And so I took some photographs today and emailed around all the Shire councillors for that part of town and said, please take action. And Robin, of course, bless his cotton socks, did. So we'll wait to see what happens now. But, my view is if people are coming into town, and that's where they pop in first, just to kind of, I don't know, check their map or something, they're going to be disgusted and think that Buckingham is a very littered place, and it's not. So I think we need to clear that too.
Is it
just
possible, sorry, Robin, is it possible that you could send those pictures round to all members?
The town clerk has already had a copy.
Paul, would you be able to send
Yeah.
those round? I think it'd just be useful for everybody to see what it's like up there. That would be really useful. Thank you for that, John. Robin.
Well, why I brought it up because I was concerned the way these things come that I'll get one of these Trojan answers, which it doesn't fall under us, it's something and whatever. And then and they may throw it back saying it can be done under devolved services. Well, that's not what devolved services were designed for. So I'm used to those sort of answers. But I do think that we need to do something about publicising this fact, because it would be interesting to see if, you know, other areas around the bypass are the same, because you know, people stop only where the canal is, don't they? They pull up there and go in there. And we also got other areas. What we don't really want to do, because the leaves are all going to drop off the trees very soon. The verges may be mown because they have a cutting fashion. And what that will do is chop all of this up into fine chelished pieces of paper on the verge and bits of plastic everywhere. There's a real environmental issue. Also, all these cans that are put there, small rodents and stuff climb in them, don't they? And die. And they're and it's for birds. So I just wonder where we ought to do something about publicising that we'd like people to respect the ring road as much as respect the town.
We've all got our social media accounts. I'm sure we can, if we have the photographs from John, then we can plug this on our social media accounts. I don't think any members would have an issue with that. And if they do, then don't put them on your social media. All right, so Paul, if you wouldn't mind forwarding those photos around to everybody. Thank you.
Councillor Mullen has a hand.
Sorry, Andy.
He's muted.
Where is he? There you are.
Thank you, Chairman. This is just a question through you for Councillor Harvey. Is this where the food wagon also? So I think they should have a responsibility as well.
I wouldn't blame the food wagon though, Andy. I think, you know, they're not responsible people to do with their rubbish. They've probably got a bin there as well anyway. This is a whole heap of other stuff that's up there as well. There's cans of drinks and all that kind of business. I don't think it's probably fair to blame the van who's struggling to make a living.
I've seen the food wagon has a bin there, Andy. Don't worry about them. They do put a bin.
There is, but then there are quite a few food places that have a responsibility. You know, I remember when we were first discussing McDonald's, and I mentioned to members that when they opened in Kilburn, they had a certain area that they had to walk around the streets to tidy up any McDonald's rubbish. We were worried about that happening up at Tesco's. But yeah.
But for any of us, we haven't got a disposal license, so we can't just go and pick it up.
No. All right, thank you for that, everybody. Right, chairman's items. I don't have anything. Mark?
Yeah, if I could, through you, Chairman, just let members know about the meeting this Wednesday night. It's the Town and Parish Liaison meeting, which is jointly between BMK ALC and Buckinghamshire Council. I've been asked to represent Buckingham Town Council, and one of the items on that agenda is Town and Parish Council issues. If any of you on the planning committee have any issue you want me to raise, I'll be happy to do it. Just email me. I've asked the same with the whole council as well, but it's at 6:30 on Wednesday evening. I'm sorry about the late notice, but we only got the notice this morning and too late to go on this agenda.
Thanks for that.
Thank you very much for that, Mark.
Councillor Hyde has a hand.
Thank you, Paul.
Not a long one, but I attended a meeting on Robin was partly there, HS2 and East West Rail. Now, most of that is south of us, you know, though one of the approved truck routes does cut along the bypass, then down the Gorcut Road. I wonder how I should report that to this meeting.
Catherine?
Well, is it something that you can do off the cuff, or do you need to prepare it, Councillor Hirons?
I could do it off the cuff because I'm really just thinking a couple of minutes, really. But there's not much point in going to these things.
Mm.
You know,
Well, if you let me know in advance, I'll put you down for a verbal report.
Yeah. Was there anything that you wanted to say? I don't mind if you want to speak under chairman's items.
Okay, if anyone, it won't take long. They basically were announcing that there's basically 3 big contractors. One's doing East-West Rail, one's doing HS2, and one is building the, you know, it's going to be 2 square miles or something, the new maintenance work for HS2, the new maintenance building, you know, Crewe and Swindon were. In future years, they're going to be talking about Steeple Claydon or somewhere. So there's the 3 big contracts. Some are better organised than others. I thought that HS2 was well organised, and East-West Rail, which is perhaps because it's arranged by British Rail, wasn't so well done. But whichever, the one thing is they're nearly finishing what they call enabling works, which is clearing the lines so that they can actually build it, which means moving gas mains and all that sort of stuff. And it's when they start really building it that traffic will start through the various access points that they've got. And that probably happen in the first quarter or the second quarter of next year.
Just to support Paul in what he said. Paul,
I was going to come to you, Robin. I wasn't ignoring you.
Paul, would you believe it'd be worth us seeking to get those maps of the journey spaces that they were, the traffic routes, and which were published, and also those elements that dovetail to close to Buckingham? Because tell me if you think I was wrong, Paul, but I felt that the North Buck section of it really didn't get much discussion at this meeting.
It didn't.
It was mainly focusing on Marsh, Gibbon, Twyford and everything, and the areas to do to Weston didn't really get the coverage they should have done.
No.
And those are the areas which maybe the traffic to do with those are important to us. Or you know, I was in it because it's my responsibility to look at these things on a wider scope, but I wasn't there to influence it. And the only thing I would say, and I don't know if the board disagrees with me, it was amazing how much stuff they were going to have to come back on.
Oh yeah.
Some of the stuff was not really answered. Would you agree, Paul?
He was trying to answer you, but you keep cutting him off.
That was there's different ones, and I thought East-West were in particular weren't very well informed. HS2 and the depot builders were most informed, but they were dealing with issues where they got written questions. So, Robin, if you want to get more things from your area, you've got to get in written questions. They made that quite clear, and that formed the agenda.
Oh, well, you are very good at written questions, Robin.
I've written so many this month that I'm running out of ink. I can assure
I'll send you a pen.
But it's actually finding questions which are relevant to where it is. It's not like you can write. It's not a political question. It's a detailed question of whatever. And one of the things the questions, to be fair, the parishes are really very good at asking the detailed questions which affect them. Where I think councillors like myself come in is to broadly support them in that and whatever. But I think Paul makes a good point. But I mean, I went to it because it was something I was flagged up to go to, so I went to it, but I didn't interfere in the meeting. I listened to all of it.
Can we get minutes when they come out? Will they be sent around to all members?
Subgroups are quite informal, so you never know.
No, I don't think there will be, Paul. I think what we really, can I ask that we just seek the maps of the traffic movements, because I think they're the things that we need to know, because if the traffic movements aren't to come near Buckingham that close, and they suddenly start running through the middle of Buckingham with HS2 traffic, we'll have some problem with it, and we need to know that they shouldn't be there. There are defined routes, and some of them, you know,
Yeah.
they were saying that some of it won't touch this person. Well, we all know
Yeah.
that isn't always the case.
All right. Okay, if we can get that then, Paul, that'd be really helpful.
I was pleased to see Paul there because it didn't seem quite so lonely.
They got trackers on all the trucks, and they were showing a map where you can see that truck has been within a 50 miles. So if Cole said that they've got to come in through this road, through this, you know, you can see that whether it's done it or not. The only question is whether someone's actually looking at the track, you know, and but it does. If someone reports a truck going through the centre of Buckingham, they can look at it and say, yes, there was, and it's that truck. They can actually pin it down to which one it is. Which
Brilliant.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for that, you two. That's really useful. And if we can have something on the agenda for the next time, Catherine, that'd be brilliant. All right, everybody, guys and gals. Actually, I think I'm not the only girl. I will see you all at the next meeting. Thank you very, very much for being here, staying awake. And Catherine, Louise and Paul, thank you very much for your hard work.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.
Yep, thank you, Karen. Thank you.
See you on the 2nd of November for planning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you. Bye-bye.